All right, let's get right into it. Today we're talking about a book that people either see as this incredible masterpiece, or they see it as just infuriating, offensive trash. There's not a lot of in between. And that book is Paul Bowles' 1949 novel, The Sheltering Sky. So first, let's look at the official story, right? This thing is considered a literary giant. I mean, it's praised as a landmark of 20th century literature. People say it's haunting in a very beautiful way and that it digs into the very limits of what it means to be human. This is the version you hear about, this celebrated classic.
But then, you have this take. A modern reviewer, Nicole Bartley, had let's say, a slightly different reaction. She said, and I quote, "Most literature doesn't evoke the rage in me that resulted from this book." Whoa. So how on earth can one book get such completely opposite reactions? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into.
All right, let's get into it. Let's unpack this contradictory classic. The big question is why? Why is this book so polarizing? And I think the best way to get our heads around it is to look at two totally different ways of reading the story, the characters, and some of its most controversial moments. Okay, first up, the basic setup and the characters. Because this is really where the first major split happens. Is this some deep, profound journey, or is it just a story about a bunch of terrible people doing terrible things? So on paper, the premise sounds pretty deep, right? It's pure existential fiction. That whole philosophy about searching for meaning in a world that feels like it has none, which was a huge deal right after World War II. You've got these three Americans, a couple, Port and Kit, and their friend Tunner, and they're just wandering through North Africa. They're totally adrift, looking for some kind of purpose. And Port, the husband, he's just obsessed with going deeper and deeper into the Sahara, into what he calls the unfathomable emptiness of the desert. But here's the thing. The critic says this grand philosophical premise just completely falls apart because of the characters. She argues their big existential crises feel totally fake because, honestly, they're just awful. She calls them selfish, naive, conceited, pompous, spoiled, and pretentious. I mean, the reviewer flat out says she just couldn't bring herself to care about any of them at all.
And that brings us right to the main character, Kit. She is really the lightning rod for almost all of the controversy.
Okay, so to really get the criticism, you have to follow Kit's journey here. First, while she's talking all about how much she loves her husband, Port, she goes and has an affair with their friend Tunner. Okay, then, Port gets super sick with typhoid, and what does she do? She locks him in his room. And then, after he dies, she just leaves his body there and runs off into the Sahara with all of his money. And this is what leads the reviewer to ask this one just totally exasperated question. What woman does that? You can really feel the frustration there, right? It's a direct challenge to the character, saying her actions are so unbelievable they just don't make any kind of sense, even if you factor in shock. So this gets to the heart of the critique. The argument is that Kit isn't just a character you don't like, she's actually a harmful stereotype. The reviewer sees her as this collection of all the worst tropes about women. Irrational, flighty, weak, overly emotional, and she argues that a character like this gives women everywhere a bad reputation. And all of this is really just the build-up to the single most controversial part of the entire book. And just a heads up, the next part does deal with sexual assault. So what happens is, after Kit runs off into the desert, she gets a ride with a caravan. The two men who are running it then repeatedly rape her and hold her captive. I mean, it's a truly horrific event in the story, no matter how you look at it.
But the real outrage, for the critic, isn't just that this happens, it's how Kit reacts. The reviewer's point is that a real woman in that situation fights back. She kicks, she punches, she claws her way out. But in the book, Kit's internal thoughts, she starts to see the assault as an act of love.
And this is the actual line from her internal monologue that the reviewer quotes. He's not doing this for himself. Every motion he makes is for me alone. They're loving touches. For the critic, a portrayal like that isn't just hard to believe. It is deeply, profoundly offensive. And the criticism doesn't stop with the character's reaction. It's also about the writing itself. The argument is that the author, Bowles, uses this really florid prose, this sort of overly fancy language, that actually hides how horrible the violence is. It kind of disconnects the reader from the horror of it all, in the same way Kit seems disconnected. And for the reviewer, that's just a deplorable way to write about something so terrible.
So, where does that leave us? Basically, with two totally different legacies for the exact same book.
Is it this profound work about human despair, or is it just a despicable story about despicable people?
Let's just put it all side by side to make it super clear. On one hand, you have the classic view. It's a deep novel about existential despair, it's psychologically complex, a true landmark of literature. But on the other hand, you have the modern critique. It's a book that pushes harmful prejudices, it's filled with despicable characters, and it portrays sexual assault in a way that the reviewer finds absolutely unacceptable.
And really, that leaves us with a much bigger and I think more important question. It's not really about who's right or wrong here. The real question is for us, what do we do when a celebrated piece of art, one of these so-called classics, contains ideas that are just deeply, deeply troubling to us now? How are we supposed to engage with that conflict as readers and just as thinkers?